This is gonna be cool.
The topics and opinions expressed on the Dudes and Beer podcast are intended for an audience of 18 and up and are solely those of the host and guests. They neither reflect the opinions or values of either the sponsors of Dudes and Beer or your mother. I mean, seriously. Have you ever heard these guys? They'll talk about anything.
Whoa, hey, you think they're gonna show it? They'll probably just blur it out. Whoa, check it out, Beavis.
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, I'm not uptight, not unattractive. Turn me on tonight, 'cause I'm a radioactive. World's not a fight, and I'm not your captive. Turn me loose tonight.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome once again to the Dudes and Beer podcast. I am Chris Jordan, your host, here live in Austin, Texas tonight with Nelson Kugle, Matt Fitzgerald, and Stephen Bishop. And joining us on the phone is Investigative Reporter Jon Bowne. We're actually going to be diving into the very unfortunate shooting that happened at Pulse Nightclub. As of right now, the largest mass shooting in American history. We're going to be talking about Omar Mateen, the shooter, his wife, the investigations by the FBI prior to the incident, what the failures there might have been, as well as background checks. Whenever we come back from this message from our sponsor.
Hey, are you a musician? Do you play guitar, bass, or synthesizers? Are you a studio engineer looking for that different sound? Well, fret no longer. Austin Hot Mods is there for you. From Boss to Ibanez, DoD to EHX and more, Austin Hot Mods provides over 50 different modifications and customizations to some of the most popular guitar pedals on the market, from vintage to modern. So if you're looking for that boutique custom sound on a Craigslist budget, look no further. Contact Austin Hot Mods today and mention that you heard it here on the Dudes and Beer podcast for 5% off your first guitar pedal modification. Visit them online at austinhotmods.com. Texas owned and operated and home of the Mod of the Month deal. That website again is austinhotmods.com.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Dudes and Beer podcast. I am Chris Jordan, your host, and tonight we will actually be talking with Jon Bowne about the ongoing situation in Orlando. John, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic.
Welcome, John.
Welcome, John.
Hey, Fitz, Nelson, and Steve.
What up?
Yeah.
We are here in the studio tonight, and we're just curious. Go ahead and lay down for us the facts of the case of what's gone on in Orlando thus far, John.
Well, we've got some breaking news going on with it, but for those of you out there who may have been under a rock for the past couple of days, let me just go ahead and bring you up to speed. In about 2 a.m. Sunday morning, 29-year-old Omar Mateen, a registered Democrat, and that is actually important, even though I'm not privy to Democrats or Republicans. It is a paradigm, but it does matter that he's a registered Democrat. You can figure that out for yourself. He unleashed a jihad attack on the Pulse Nightclub, a gay club in Orlando, Florida. He killed 49, he wounded 53, in the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. Now, there's been a lot of debate online about, a lot of more people died at 9/11. A lot more people died in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
A lot more people died at Wounded Knee.
Yeah.
But this was the most by a single shooter, supposedly, as far as we know so far. Things are gradually, more information is coming as far as how he got an AR-15 in there without anyone seeing it, and whether or not he even had used an AR-15. We're not even sure yet. But and there have been reports by people that were inside that there was a second shooter, but that's all to be verified later. So he was from Queens, New York. He's the second generation, which is the second generation of Islamicists in the United States are the ones that we really got to worry about, because they're the ones that are rebelling against their parents. Now, this guy, Omar, turns out he more than likely was gay. He was using an app to hook up with other gay men, and then he had been to that club at least 12 times.
Yeah,
So he's been soliciting gay sex, is what you're saying.
Well,
yeah. I mean, we don't have proof of that yet, but he had an app where he could hook up with other gay men. So, but the reason for that fact is that his father, who had his own TV show and regularly dressed up like the president of Afghanistan, and had his own jihadist beliefs about gays, was very anti-gay. And it looks like Omar might have been rebelling against dear old dad, and something just finally snapped in him, and he killed a bunch of. The people that he killed were all Obama supporters.
And that being aside from the point, really, I mean, yes, he is a registered Democrat. Yes, Democrats have moved for gun legislation, including assault rifles, which the AR-15 is not even an assault rifle. AR stands for Armalite rifle, not assault rifle. Assault rifles are defined mainly by the fact that you have a selective rate of fire. AR-15s are a single shot. You pull the trigger, a bullet comes out. Pull the trigger again, another bullet comes out. So it operates the same way as your handgun. But with that being really kind of a side issue here, we're talking about what caused this dude to snap to begin with. And, it has come out in the media. His ex-wife has said that he had what she thought was homosexual-leaning tendencies. His current wife knew about him going to this club. He did go out and befriend quite a few of the people, obviously. There have been quite a few witnesses that said that they'd seen him on premises before, that they saw him walk in that night and just kind of casually saw him and didn't think of anything of it.
They didn't think he was a threat at all.
It's either the case of, yes, he's a confused individual who had some homosexual-leaning tendencies that went against the grain of his family. He didn't know what to do. He's trapped in a world between being heterosexual and homosexual, and that causes him to snap. Or
his friends described him as awkward.
They did. His friends and his coworkers both. And his coworkers had actually reported him at work for saying things like this. And they were apparently gone unreported and did not go up the chain because people were afraid of political correctness. Now, and that brings us directly to the point of the FBI here, John. Now, you and I had a long conversation today about what appears to be straight ineptness on the part of the FBI in the last few years. Going back to prior to the Boston bombing, when they knew about the Tsarnaev brothers. They knew that they had attended bomb-making seminars in Chechnya. They knew that this guy in Orlando was attending a mosque that had possibly been radicalized. They knew that he had gone to 2 trips to the Holy Land, which, hey, that's neither here nor there. He's perfectly allowed to go to the Holy Land. But if you've been on a watch list before, how'd you end up on that fly list? And how are you not back on the watch list after that?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that worries me about this, especially what I found out today about Omar, potentially being a homosexual, and that you're looking at his family situation as being very much against homosexuality.
Right.
And I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Okay, where. Children, by children I mean like children of parents. It doesn't matter what age they are. They could be in middle school. They could be in their 30s, whatever. But we have seen time and time again where children are seriously affected by their parents if they know that they are homosexual.
Yeah, it's the pressure.
And
pressure.
They are pressured from their family to be a completely different way than they actually are. What does that do to your mind?
And multiply that by 1,000.
Exactly.
What does a jihadist religion that wants to throw gays off a building?
Exactly.
That does throw gays off buildings. Not even wants to. In 11 countries, that's a punishment.
The religion actually allows men to have sex with boys, but as long as there's no love between the man and the boy, then it's okay. But if there's love between 2 men, then they must be killed.
Right.
It's completely bizarre.
Well, no, I mean, I would say that, you know, we can't condemn the entire religion like we can't condemn any entire religion, okay?
Sure.
But when you move to that extreme point, and again, you know, if this guy knew he was gay, if this guy was gay, and he was dealing with family members who their entire fiber of their being was against that, what did that do to him psychologically to force him and move him to this point of severe, intense violence?
It's not going to be the conversation, hey, Dad, there's a reason I'm wearing leotard. It's going to be, hey, Dad, I'm gay and now you're going to kill me.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, it's the entire situation that we're talking about is absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely horrifying. And I have gay friends, I have gay family members, and it horrifies me to see what has happened. Yep. I mean, it really, like, it makes me feel numb.
And it's rocked a lot of us. And, you know, to me, it's something that, yes, you are trying to make a point. And, you know, they've tied him. A lot of people have been talking radical Islam, everything else. What's really interesting, John, is the fact that this kid hadn't been tied to any radical Islam. Like, according to all their reports, he wasn't tied enough to it for them to continue an investigation into him.
Right, but CNN right now is reporting on him and saying that this was a terrorist act based on his religion.
Because at 2 p.m. today, the president came out and said that this was an act of terrorism.
Well, it was
framed that way. So.
Let me clarify. Anytime you shoot somebody else, it is an act of terrorism.
Technically, only if it's for the means of getting across your political point of view.
Well, but even if you are not going out to get across your political point of view, you look at, like, Sandy Hook.
You terrorized another human being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You look at, like, these, or even like Columbine, okay? The thing that, like, basically kicked all of this off. Columbine was an act of terrorism. It was domestic terrorism. There is a slight distinction, but it is terrorism no less. You are terrorizing people. You are terrorizing families, and that is absolutely fucked.
Yeah.
And I don't give a fuck what religion you're from.
Yeah.
I mean, that is terrorism.
It's to the core the worst thing that you could possibly do.
Absolutely.
And now, granted, the argument could be made, Fitz, that we do the exact same thing in countries across the world.
Right. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you there.
Yeah.
You know what struck me personally about this whole thing is
Go ahead, John.
I have a cousin, and she got married. She lives in Kentucky, and she married another woman. And I love her to death. And you know, I'm an American. I live and let live, man. And I've had plenty of gay friends.
Yeah.
We all have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
It's not like.
And we all
it's
do.
Nothing rare in this day and age.
You're one of those people that gay people. No, any American does, man. So the thing is when he gunned down 49 gay people in hate, those poor. I mean, it just must have been horrific, man.
Yeah.
Totally defenseless, and it just hurt, man. You know, I'm a heterosexual man, but I care about other human beings, and just the fact that there was enough hate there to take out that part of our culture. Yeah. It only means that they're coming after. You know, that's just one pocket of what they hate.
Who do you speak of when you say they?
Too.
When you're saying they, who are you speaking about?
What do you mean they?
When you were,
that's what he's asking you.
Yeah,
John.
when you were saying this, what they hate about Americans and what they hate about Christians.
I mean, there's two. Look, Islam is and was a beautiful religion. There's a side to Islam that I've studied. Sufism is a beautiful thing, man. It's a oneness with the universe. It's an expression of that oneness with the universe. It's ancient. It's a great thing. But those people have been murdered. The jihadist realm of Islam is alive and well. That's what's taking over. And it's not really radical Islam. When you get into Islam, there's two parts of Islam. One of them is practicing your religion and being a peaceful, passionate, religious person. The other is waging jihad.
Well,
and that's a Christian religion too. I mean,
absolutely
right. Yeah.
You know, but the thing is the Christians aren't doing that right now.
Yeah.
And we went over there and we stirred up a hornet's nest. We bombed the shit out of all those countries, and we pissed off. And you know what? I mean, us as the American people, we had nothing really to do with that, except that a lot of us were sent over there to fight.
Yeah.
It was our government. And it was all engineered. If you read The Grand Chessboard by Brzezinski, to take over the Eurasian continent, to take it away from the other superpower, which was dwindling, which is Russia, so that we're the major superpower. Become the major superpower, and once we are just the indisputed champ of the world, then the New World Order, the globalist interests, the bankers, they come in and take over us. And so this really isn't about Islam. It's not about it being a bad religion. It's not about them being bad people. It's the fact that we're all being manipulated by total assholes.
Right. Well, and John, the reason I bring up the question and the reason I ask about they is because, again, going to my point earlier, with things like this or with, acts of religious terrorism like 9/11, things like that, the things that have happened in Europe, those sort of things, I do want to make the distinction that the they we are speaking about is religious extremists who are out to invoke terror in other people. Okay, I grew up a Christian. Okay, I don't really consider myself a Christian anymore. I consider myself more of a spiritual person rather than religious. But I see the faults. I see the faults in every religion. Right?
I appreciate you calling me out on using the word "they" because it lumps people into a group.
Sure.
Well, and I'm not.
And as Americans, we're being lumped into a group right now. They're coming after our guns because they, them, we are Americans, and we have a Second Amendment. And now you got Rolling Stone today saying repeal the Second Amendment. You got Jay Johnson saying that the Second Amendment is basically harboring terror.
Right.
I mean, they're coming for it today.
Well,
and then the latest. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, to a point, because I think when things like this happen, that is obviously the target, right? Now, John, I want to ask this of you. What, as far as gun control, and I know that that's kind of a dark term when it comes to gun owners and gun enthusiasts and things like that. But when it comes to gun control, okay, things like that, what do you believe is a reasonable solution to the things that we have been dealing with as far as mass shootings, people getting a hold of guns that they shouldn't be, automatic weapons on the streets, things like that? What, in your opinion, what would be a reasonable solution to what we've been dealing with? Because, I mean, I have a hard time pinpointing it. I don't necessarily believe that we need to just take all the guns away because there's still going to be guns out there. Okay, so I pose the question to you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a heavy question for me because I absolutely believe every amendment in the Bill of Rights is being attacked. And, that's my main concern is that it's all being watered down. Now, as far as people being shot in this country, the statistics aren't really there. The gun ownership in this country, I think, has reached like 101%. We've sold more guns in the past couple of months than we ever have. But as far as people being killed by guns,
I actually have an article here from, I believe it's crimewatch.org. They do a statistic every year of the country with the most mass shootings. We're actually 11 on the list of countries with the most mass shootings.
Right, and it's a horrible thing when especially when a kid gets out their parents' gun and it goes and take, and I mean, that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, man, this idiot shouldn't have had a gun. You know, the poor kid lost their life. But the fact of the matter is, it goes back to what I was saying, is that they're coming. It's not some fantastical, possibility opinion of mine. They are systematically setting up a police state in this country, and they're on the verge because Trump has got them sweating.
Well, now, and
they're coming. They are coming for your right to protect yourself and your family. And so when that happens, when they come and they say, you know, I'm going to take your shotgun, I'm going to take your handgun, even though you never used it, you took care of it, you took lessons, you know not to point it at anybody, you know the basic rules about having a handgun. It's just a tool, basically. I've got hammers in my garage. I've got axes in my garage. I got plenty of things I could kill people with that aren't guns. But the one thing I don't have is a need to go kill anybody.
Yeah,
and
right.
So that's where it all starts. Is where did you know, as far as the jihadist Islamic sect that is growing, that wants to put Sharia law in control over the United States Constitution, they have a need to kill people they disagree with, and they have a tool that helps them make that happen. Now, the automatic weapons were you can't get. You got to get heavily registered to get an automatic weapon. That's back in 1934. You got a lot of people, a lot of liberals who get out there on a soapbox and say we got to take away automatic weapons. It's just laughable because they took them away in 1934, man.
Yeah, because there was a whole thing about people who had their Tommy gun. That was one of the first grandfather laws that went in.
Right.
Was people who had their Tommy guns pre-existing to World War II were allowed to keep them.
I mean, you can still get one. You can still get a silencer, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to be heavily regulated, and people that get them know what they're doing.
You can get a suppressor. You can't get a silencer.
What I would argue, John, is that, you know, like we've got people in this country that can very easily get a hold of weapons, whether that is a small handgun, a shotgun, a rifle, or whatever. And I mean, there are plenty of automatic weapons on the streets that are totally unregulated.
That's the biggest problem is that once they take away mom and pop guns, then they'll all have the gun.
Well, and I understand that point, but you know what I'm asking is when it comes to keeping the most dangerous weapons that we have out of the hands of dangerous people, what, you know, like regardless of religion or anything like that, where do we go with this?
The problem is that it's not the most dangerous weapon that we have. An AR-15 is actually slightly larger than your average .22 round.
Well, the problem,
it's a 223. Your hunting rifles are much, much larger. In most states, you aren't even legally allowed to hunt with the 223.
The cancer is spread. The cancer is spread. We focus so much on the tool. We should be thinking about the thought in these people's minds.
Well, and
so how many people are out there in this country? And now since 2001 to 2013, we brought in over 1.5 million. We're about to reach the point to where the Afghanis and the people from Syria and Iraq and so on that have come in since 2001 are going to they're going to be larger than the population of Washington, D.C. How many of those people have the weapon of hate and kill in their mind?
And not just that. My question is, because it came out, and we covered this in October, whenever the national head of the FBI said that they were not possibly able to run proper background checks on all of the refugees coming in to begin with.
Well,
that they couldn't properly vet them.
They couldn't even do a chat.
And this guy,
Omar on a watch.
This guy, well, and that's just it. That's what I'm saying. That's really what I want to focus here on.
And working for GS4, didn't he go through some rigorous background checks?
Yeah,
I mean,
like
me being from security, I've worked security like 10 plus years. And
I have to pass background checks for the Secret Service all the time.
How do you not catch certain things? And especially even if he got past those, he passed. You know, FBI was checking him out 2 times at least, and then they dropped the ball. You know, it's like...
Well, and it's not just that. It's the fact of, you know, if he was on a no-fly list, how could he get a gun?
Right.
And
Well, and
no sense.
the latest breaking on Omar is that the FBI is now doing a cleanup on their mess. And the mess is the fact that he was casing Disney World.
Yes.
And so now the Obama administration and the FBI is like, oh, crap, we got to go and see if he was communicating with anybody back in Afghanistan. He might have been casing Disney World for a future attack.
So how is the FBI cleaning up their mess is what I'm wondering.
Well, they didn't. They had no idea what he was doing. I mean, they should have been watching him. He's been interviewed by the FBI 3 times. And not only that, he worked for the largest security company for the Department of Homeland Security. The actual security company was an offshoot of Wackenhut, which was begun by the CIA, and so he had clearance. This is a company that
he had clearance to guard top secret stuff.
G4S, they have clearance. They oversee 90% of our nuclear facilities.
That's nice to know.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to wonder about, because number one, like I said, like I'm an AV engineer. Like I recently had the president of Mexico on my stage. Like I have to run through Secret Service background checks. They have to make sure that I am a registered gun owner. Like that pops up.
It's
that's
just
there.
ludicrous that you gotta take.
So how is it that same FBI background check, the same one that if you walk into a gun store and they pick up the phone, it rings the local FBI office?
Yeah.
Like this is the same FBI. The Florida office is the same one that was known for shooting Ibrahim Todashev in the top of the head during the investigation after the Boston bombing.
The mess is huge.
Right.
The mess is huge because it came out that Hillary Clinton had actually told the FBI to lay off of the mosque that the imam, who Omar went to this mosque in Fort Pierce, and the imam, it's on video of him saying that the gays should all be killed out of compassion.
Yes.
And so Hillary Clinton herself blocked that from being investigated. So it's just one thing after another, and it's the Three Stooges all bumping into each other trying to carry a piano, or this is all happening for.
I think DHS dropped the ball way too many times.
Well,
I mean that's what I want to ask you guys. That's what I want to ask you guys, and I'll
go ahead
and shut up. Is this happening for a reason, or are these people that stupid?
Okay, well,
alphabet agencies.
Let's sound off on that real quick. We got about 15 minutes left in this broadcast. Go ahead, Nelson. Let us know what you think first.
Oh man, I just think it's a big mess. But you know what I had read on Omar, that he was crazy. You know, he was beating his wife a couple times, his ex-wife, and I don't know. I'm a little confused on the situation. I was trying to listen to a lot of it today. I've been busy out of the car, so I wasn't really able to catch up on a lot of the breaking news today. But it's interesting, and I really don't feel like any sort of gun reform would help this. And I get where Obama's coming from, but it's just not something that's legitimate enough right now, and it's a complicated situation.
It is. What about you, Stephen?
I think our government dropped the ball way too many times. I think that needs to be addressed. Also, I think that the one that causes all these, you know, I'm talking about all the shootings that, you know, overall unfortunate events that happen, tragedies that are disgusting, that it's the one that is responsible and not the whole. So stop using this as a tool to attack our Second Amendment. That's what I think.
All right. Fitz, what about you, buddy?
I don't really know what to say, honestly. I mean, I don't, you know, like we're talking about guns getting in the hands of the wrong people, and the way we're talking about it is very much about keeping guns in the hands of the right people, and I don't have a solution, and I'm honestly kind of frustrated. So I don't really have much to say beyond that.
if the president and the future, or at least the Democratic nominee, weren't supported by Saudi Arabia, who, when the 28 pages comes out, will be shown to be the masterminds, in cahoots with Cheney and Bush,
right?
To strategize what happened on 9/11. If these people weren't in control, then, brother, I'd be like, man, let's set. If we had good people, if John F. Kennedy was the president, and there wasn't all this bullshit going on, man, with the government, then I'd be like, you know what? Too many kids are getting shot, man. Is there something we can do where we can? God, maybe he's a deadbeat dad, right?
Well,
he shouldn't.
You don't
have
feel
a
that
gun.
way now. You don't feel that way now that too many
don't,
kids are getting shot.
Brother. I don't, because I feel like we're on the.
You don't
verge
feel that too many
of
kids are getting shot right now.
No. I mean, the thing is we're all gonna get shot, man. We're on the verge of being attacked by our own government, man. And we have never needed our Second Amendment more in the history of this country than right now, where you're sitting right now breathing air.
Well,
We've
and
never needed it more.
it is true that the whole Second Amendment is written entirely for the fact of defending ourselves against a tyrannical government. That is the whole purpose for its existence. It's not for hunting. It's not for anything else. It doesn't say it's for hunting. If it said it was for hunting, we wouldn't have a problem with this because, like I said, a .223, which is what comes out of the end of an AR-15, is far, far smaller of a round and far less powder behind it than a .308, for example, a .30-06. Which is what you would use as a sniper rifle.
It doesn't fucking matter how powerful the gun is. It matters what you fucking do with it.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what fucking gun you have.
That's the exact point that he's making.
That's
the exact point that he's
making. But why are we
trying
talking
to make.
about that?
It's what's in your mind.
Because that is what the dialectic is right now. That's what the media is swinging it as, and that's what we talk about frequently on this show. Is the fact that the media tends to spin things a lot.
They use it as a tool,
and that isn't the root cause of this problem. That isn't the root cause of this issue. It's not a gun issue. It's not. It's a societal issue, and it's a cultural difference issue.
What I'm disappointed about is the fact that we decided to go into talking about fucking guns tonight instead of talking about the people who died and why they died and what the fuck happened.
Well,
we made a mistake tonight, in my opinion.
We're still talking about that right now, Fitz, because I haven't had a chance to weigh in at all here.
Nope.
And my whole issue is the fact of the reason why people died is because, like I've said before, the FBI dropped the ball. Their investigative process is failing. It does not work.
The FBI can investigate somebody as much as they want. They can wiretap somebody, they can follow somebody, they can put somebody on a watch list, and guess what? That person can still find their way to a gun and still find their way to a nightclub and shoot people without the FBI knowing. I could go do terrible things tonight if I just turn off my fucking phone and go decide to fucking do it.
You could.
So it's not, it doesn't, yes, sure. Maybe the FBI dropped the ball, but it's not their fucking fault.
No,
it's not their fucking fault what happened.
No.
That is fucking ridiculous.
It's the fault of one man.
I didn't say it was their fault.
Yeah. It's the fault of one man. It's the fault of Omar Mateen.
But why are we talking about the fucking FBI dropping the ball? Sure, maybe they made mistakes, maybe they didn't. I don't fucking know. I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just trying to say, hey, this shit fucking happened.
It did.
This is serious shit.
And the problem is, how do we keep it from happening?
That's what I was asking.
How do we stop it from happening?
And apparently, it's
we've left
give
the
everybody
FBI
a fucking gun.
No, it's not give everybody a gun. That's not what anybody has said.
Government thinks take away all the guns, but that's not going to solve it.
The problem isn't giving people guns. The answer isn't giving people guns. The answer isn't taking guns away from people. The answer is a cultural difference that goes on, like we were talking about, where he probably grew up with a father that was saying the way that you think is oppressed. It's not allowed.
Right.
This is not allowed, and he's growing up in a culture where it is allowed. And it causes some very conflicting feelings, and we don't know whether he was going to the place for over a year to case the joint, to pull this thing, or if he was actually somebody of a conflicted nature And maybe that's why he did it. Unfortunately, the man is dead, so we'll never actually know. All we have is hearsay and conjecture from ex-wives, his present wife, who is now under investigation by the FBI
data
for not turning him in, because she apparently knew that he was planning something, that he was going to do something. His father, who is, like John said, appeared on videos dressed up as the leader of Iraq and spouting the fact that homosexuals need to die. His father has come out and said he had no idea that his son was doing anything, and that it was a horrible thing that he went out and did.
The last thing I have to say is this, is regardless of whatever we fucking said tonight, my heart is broken for the people who died, for the families and the friends who have to deal with this shit, and for the fucking American people who have to watch this happen every day, whether it's CNN, Fox News, whatever. We have to watch this every day, all day.
We do.
Right.
And for a community like the LGBT community to have to suffer this, and for the American people to have to suffer this, is completely fucked and fucking. Yep. That's what I have to fucking say.
Well, absolutely.
And right on, man, and it's incredibly depressing.
It is. And, it's the fact of, it's just like with tonight, it drives the dialogue into a certain direction, and that's what everybody seems to make it about. That's what the president's speech was about today. It was about mourning at the beginning, and then at the end it was all about politics and gun control. And that's it. Like I've said, that is not the conversation that needs to be had here. The conversation that needs to be had here is understanding cultures, understanding the differences in people, and being able to set a groundwork where that can exist within America.
It's a very complicated issue.
It is. It's a hugely complicated issue.
Can I just ask you all what kind? I'm currently drinking Nevada Pale Ale.
We got a couple of High Lifes in here,
John.
A couple of Mosaics. But
I got a Miller High Life.
All that on the side, it is something that the conversation in our country to begin with is one that, especially right now, is polarized.
It's man.
It's polarized in only one direction,
what I get tired
and it's election-oriented.
What I get tired of from the media is the labels of if it's the LBG or whatever, the gay community or what community.
It's an attack on all of us.
I know.
Yeah, it's an attack on all of us. We're all human beings, and there was lives lost, and that's how I would like to refer it to.
Absolutely.
It's LGBT.
Yeah.
And I do believe that the LGBT community lives do matter.
Oh, everybody's lives matter. That's what.
No, most definitely. I'm not saying that no one else does.
Yeah.
Animal lives matter.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Nelson.
Go ahead, Nelson.
There was a Russian individual who is gay, and we all know that the Russians really put a lot of propaganda out there to hate the gays. This one man had a poster, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was all about, love each other, everything needs to be evolved around love, something like that. And he was in the group of people they were kind of doing like a candlelight ceremony for this thing.
Right.
And the Russian police arrested him because they thought what he wrote was just not right. I forget the word I'm looking for, but for someone to be arrested,
you got arrested
especially in Russia.
We're one of the only countries in the world where people have the absolute freedoms that they have.
Sure.
Gay, black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. We all have equal rights.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't exist everywhere, and a lot of people don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, Go ahead, John.
Well, I'll just say, I was born in 1971, and I'm Generation X.
Yep. And
we had the 70s where black and white folks came together pretty smoothly, man. I mean, the old adage, I've got black friends. Well, whatever, dude. I mean, the first girl I kissed was black, okay? It doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's just the fact that we're all Americans getting together. And then we went through the 80s where you had Culture Club and Twisted Sister and all this. We had our whole gay thing on our own, man. And now you got the government coming along and saying, well, you need to be more respectful towards the LGBTQ community, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Well, and that
dude,
message,
we were already doing
that message is not necessarily for us. You have to remember that. You also have to remember, unfortunately, it's for our parents, John. And it's for their generation because if you recall, those are the people that actually get out and vote in droves.
Right.
Is the retirees.
True.
And it's not that we aren't tolerant of Islam. It's that they aren't tolerant of Islam. And they're the ones that have to be. They're afraid of our generation in a lot of ways.
I think they really are.
And you know, it really is. Like I said, it's a cultural difference. It's not just a cultural difference between the memes of society, like we're saying right now in America, between the baby boomers and Generation X. It's not just that. It's the fact of not everybody takes the time to understand a religion not their own, John. Not everybody takes the time to hop on the telephone and order the Book of Mormon at 2 a.m.
Right.
Well, it's like a black friend of mine once told me, named Tracy Clark, an excellent bass player. We called him the Black Beast. He once told me, when you point your finger else, 3 are staring right back at you.
Well, and that's just it. You know, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left, and you know, I really want to bring this home. I really want to. You know, this was a horrible, horrible thing that has happened to our country. That's happened to a specific community in our country,
man.
And you know, the fact is, it is one of the strongest communities in our country. It is one of the most supportive of itself, of the communities around it. One of the most supportive of their cities that they live in. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and you know. Not everybody respects and understands that difference. And I think that's a lot of what this podcast is about, opening that conversation, opening.
And that's a beautiful thing. I just want to say that I know for a fact that the Americans that are my age, we all generally love each other.
We do.
I mean, no matter who it is, what color, whatever the hell's wrong with you, think's wrong with you, we still love you.
Right.
You know,
That's it.
You know, I mean, we were. That's the problem with our generation is we don't assimilate, man.
Yeah.
We're all together, and that's got to scare the shit out of the people in power.
Well, it scares the shit out of a lot of people, exactly. And you just look at the people that have turned out for Bernie, the people that have turned out for other rallies, in droves across the country, and that explains it right there. John, I want to thank you so much for coming on, my friend.
Anytime.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Nelson,
Love you, brother.
Air Jordan.
We're gonna let
you guys.
All right, we're gonna let you go, brother. We'll talk at you soon.
All right, man. Later.
Peace. And somebody has decided to somebody has decided to turn the water on again next to us. I figured that out a while ago. We're actually right here next to the water spout outside. It's one of the only noises that we get here in the studio. So on that note, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Dudes and Beer podcast. Please stop by, check us out online. www.dudesandbeer.com is the website. You can check out all the episodes. Until next time, everybody, take care. We'll talk to you soon. If you can't be good at it. You've been listening to the Dudes and Beer podcast. Visit us online at www.dudesandbeer.com. Find our audio streams on soundcloud.com and spreaker.com/Dudes and Beer. Follow us on Facebook /Dudes and Beer. Thanks for listening, everybody. And until next time, drink responsibly.